And here we go. All right. Channing Tatum back on the market and how this affects you.
Why am I so excited to talk about this, Garrett? I
Oh,
feel like there's something a little wrong.
I think I know why you're so excited, Shireen.
What's it?
I might have an idea about what could be exciting to you about your neighbor Channing Tatum being back on the market.
Yeah, I mean, I think every woman in the United States of America and beyond is excited about this, even though that's totally illogical and nearly no one will really actually even meet him in person. We still all feel that there's more hope in the world. You know what I mean?
Well, he's gonna need a lot of TLC and rebound relationships. So line up girls.
Exactly. Line up, ladies. I'm like super married and off the market, so I'm just gonna live vicariously through y'all because this is an exciting time, people. I mean,
This is an exciting time.
I'm just saying, like, I think this is the most exciting thing that's happened in a long time. Anyway, I guess the question is, what are we really talking about today? Because obviously we're not going to talk for a bajillion years about Channing Tatum's. I mean, I guess we could. Do you want to talk about that, Garrett?
Well, that's not exactly the spirit of our show, unless we're talking. Well, actually, we could talk about whatever we want to talk about.
That is true.
I think there's something to be learned and shared and discussed around the whole concept of, like you were saying earlier, I don't know, doing what works for you, and being clear about that.
For you. Exactly. Yeah. So this is why this whole
and
Channing thing.
Shireen, move over just a little bit while you gush about Channing. We want to see your beautiful face like full on the screen. So move over just a little so the messages aren't in your way.
I think this is better, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, by the way, comment in, say hi. We want to make sure all our chit chatty things are going, and we haven't. And tell us how offended you are by our live stream title. We really want to hear. We want to hear how offended you are, how ridiculous we've become. Are we a tabloid now? No.
This sad,
is news.
Garrett.
This is news. This is relationship news. And Channing Tatum being back on the market is really going to affect basically a lot of people's relationships.
Well, okay, yeah. So let's discuss, right? Like, why did we bring that? So Garrett and I were talking before we went live, and I just feel like oftentimes, because last week we talked about conflict and conflict resolution and how to basically transcend and not be at war with each other and all this kind of like uber juicy deep stuff that we love. This week, I want to almost talk about the opposite, if that's possible. Almost like, when do you know it's time to let go? That's kind of where the Channing Tatum situation came in, because obviously they are choosing, for whatever reasons are relevant to them and make sense for them, to let go of their attachment to being married. So just a disclaimer, I'm a total advocate of families staying together, all about that, y'all. So let's not get weird here, okay? But I think it is really interesting for us to discuss, like, when do you let go, whether it's like a business partnership, a marriage, breaking up with a relationship, a friendship even. I feel like there's a lot of power in letting go. And so that was really what we wanted to talk about today.
Right. And now with Channing Tatum back on the market, there's also a lot of temptation to let go. So.
100%. I mean, like, what do we... I don't even know.
You're gonna be like,
truly.
Kenny, you better get your act together, brother, because if I see Channing at the bar, I can't make any promises.
Why is that so amazing? Like, I'm so tickled right now. Like, please, somebody comment and tell us how ridiculous we are right now, because we know it's stupid.
And not only will he be at the bar, he will be dancing on the bar, doing his striptease.
Oh, thank you, Larry. Larry says, no matter what we talk about, it will segue into something profound and beautiful, no doubt. See, he gets us. Thank you, Larry.
Larry may also be evoking Murphy's Law, and this could be our first show where we really just debase ourselves and never recover from it. So,
and that would be terrible. So, Larry, you ruined us. No, I'm just kidding. Totally Totally kidding. All right.
We're
So,
done. We're done.
yeah. So Garrett, why don't you give me like some thoughts on this? Because obviously you know what I think, and we'll get into that. But like, what do you think about letting go and how sometimes that is empowering, or do you think it's not empowering? What are your
No, I
thoughts?
think it's very empowering. In fact, we could do this on a whole bunch of fronts. There's relationships, but then there's also just kind of business, right? Like a startup is much more successful if they have a very clear vision of what they want to accomplish in terms of the impact on the world and the sort of the greater vision of what they're trying to, the problem that they're trying to tackle. But to get attached to a particular solution, which often is what sort of more amateur startups will do or less successful startups would do, it's kind of the same thing. It's like you'll become dysfunctional with your attachment to a particular approach or a particular way of doing things, and you will miss the big opportunities. Or if you decide, I was just listening to Jen Sincero's book because you told me to check her out, and she's an old friend, and so I never really read books from friends or people I know because I don't know, especially self-help books, I just can't take it. But Jen's book was legitimately good. Like, I enjoyed listening to her book. She's a badass, and her badass book was actually a badass book. I kind of enjoyed it. And she read it too, which was great. Like, I love audiobooks, and she did her own audiobook. And so one of the things that she was saying is, when you decide I'm going to make $100,000 in the next year or in the next month or whatever it is, being really clear on the outcome you want, but not attached to where that money is going to come from. And so she was saying, like, she was, decided in the next 4 weeks she was going to make $20,000 or something like that. And she had all these ideas about how she was going to do it. None of those ideas actually panned out, but the money did come just through other avenues. And so I kind of think that whether it's like money or a love, it's like, the love you're looking for, the money you're looking for will come to you. It just might not come to you from where you expect it to come from.
So juicy. I mean, and I feel like it's like, it really becomes complex, like when you are talking about something like marriage, because that's something legal and you go into it hoping it's forever. I just feel like I might be even complicating our whole conversation by making it about the marriage, but just because we started with Channing Tatum and his divorce. Yeah. I'm like, so maybe in that situation, just taking what you just said, I would be like, I know what kind of love I want to have forever. And cross your fingers, you hope it's Mr. Tatum because that's the person, she married. But then if it's not, it's okay to let go. Like, does that apply to what you were just saying?
Yeah, and if you read Channing's post on Instagram, he really goes into that they still love each other. There's a lot of love in their relationship as parents of their child and as friends or whatever they are now to each other. But then they also love each other enough to say they want different things right now or whatever it is. And Channing wants other women. She wants other men. I don't know what the details right? of their whatever those other things are. But the fundamental is that it sounds to me, unless it's just really good PR, it sounds to me like there is a lot of love in even their decision. And that, I think, is a deep, important truth about any kind of letting go, separation, that kind of thing. Is it's not like you have to reject the one that you're letting go of or separating from. You just need to embrace that, like, the love is going to come to you one way or another. And it's not like you have to reject the solution or the idea that you're working on as a startup. It's like that. It's just that the vision that you're working for could come from any avenue, and by not being attached to a particular avenue, miracles can happen. The world is a much bigger, more complicated, complex, interesting place than we realize, and miracles tend to be surprising. So it's kind of like, where is that love going to come from? Where is that wealth and abundance that you're looking for going to come from? Where is that opportunity you're looking for going to come from? If you're over attached to a particular, even in business, like imagine, if you need an investor for your company, or a new customer, right, or client or whatever. If you get over attached to like one particular person is going to be that source of that next money or wealth for your company, it's like
Yeah.
you're fucking up everything, because now that you're treating that person like an object, like
Yeah.
you need that thing from them, them to sign that agreement or whatever. So you're not being really fully true to your genuine relationship with them. You're in a much more like functional or taking relationship from them. And there's all this like weird mojo that goes with that. But if you're just like free and open, and you're entertaining a lot of potential clients, a lot of potential investors, I think that's where the miracles can seep in, because you're not over attached, and
That
means
is
you're
so true.
yeah.
Sorry, I'm jumping in right now because I just think you really hit the freaking bullseye when you said being over attached. I think that's why letting go can be powerful, because when you freaking cling on, like when you cling on to something and you like want it so bad, it's like you almost like suffocate it, or you like push it away. Like the energy becomes too much. It's not captivating. It's not magnetic. It's almost like repellent. Like when you
Mm-hmm.
really, like if you're dating someone and you're like, oh, and you like cling too hard, like they're gonna go run screaming. Like even business opportunities, like if you seem like a freaking desperate, needy entrepreneur, they will run screaming from you. But like you're able to be in the open space, and I think you can only be in the open space if you're willing to remain unattached. So like you said, like that, like Jen Sincero's book, like what's your outcome? You can remain attached to your outcome, but be open to the ways that it comes, and don't cling to any one way. And then I think you're staying in a very grounded, empowered place. And that's like the money spot where you're like magnetic, and like, just miracles are happening, and like opportunities are coming your way, and you're not even trying. But like, I think it's really hard to stay in that space. I think it's really easy to become like, like hyper neurotic, like I need this thing to happen because it's going to solve all my problems. And if it doesn't happen, then everything's going to, then my life sucks, or whatever kind of like goes through our minds that leads us to attach too hard. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts, Garrett, on like how we cannot become neurotic, desperate, clingy people?
Yeah. Well, so like one thing just to think about is imagine like that one relationship, okay, whether it's a business relationship or a personal relationship, but it's like if you kind of start putting all your focus on this one little relationship, right? So that's just one vector. And now you've got all of these relationships all around you that as you are shining your light and giving your gifts to the world and loving, giving your love, it's like the love you're looking for, the wealth you're looking for, the affirmation you're looking for, the business partnership you're looking for, whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
is there. It's all around you. But if you get over focused on where it needs to come from, now you've taken 360 degrees times 360 degrees. I don't know what a sphere of degrees is, but it's like you've taken all of those, million points of light that could be that source of the miracle you're looking for, that source of the fulfillment you're looking for, and you've limited it to that one particular fixation you've got. And even if it was going to come that way, now you've made it harder because you put so much pressure on it.
Yeah, exactly. See, okay, so Electric Tau says to let go is to truly have. I'm telling you, dude, like I think this is true. I feel like this is like some like crack the code on how to have whatever you want. Like this is like some cheesy, like manifesting program that I would normally be like, I'm not buying that. It sounds terrible. But I feel like this is sort of what I'm learning right now. Is I'm like, man, it really just, and even like if you're a person who's into like being in your body and feeling your physiology, and that there's a body intelligence, and so when you tune inward, you really sort of are tuning in and dropping out, like the thing you talk about, like tune in, turn on, drop out. Is that it?
Yeah, turn on, tune in, drop out. Yeah.
Boom. Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
like if I really like tune into my body and like how I feel when I'm sort of clinging to an opportunity or a person or whatever, I feel very stressed, and I feel neurotic, and I feel out of control. I don't feel very good. You know what I mean? Like I feel just like, but then once you let go, like you're just like, all right, like whatever happens, happens. Like, do I even really need this opportunity? Or is there another way that I could get the outcome that I want through a different opportunity? And like, let me start looking. And then you can just kind of like relax into trusting that the outcome will come, but it might just be in a different way. Or maybe the same way, but either way, you're just not doing that neurotic thing, you know?
Yeah. And another metaphor that can kind of drive this home is just right now, just breathe, right? You can breathe through your nose, you can breathe through your mouth. Take a deep breath, right? And you just feel like, okay, there's all this air, oxygen, nourishing oxygen and air around you, and you can just breathe. Now imagine taking a small straw and you're only breathing through that one little channel. And it's like you start to panic and feel like, you know, you're not getting enough oxygen. It's like, and that's what happens, I think, if you're over attached to a particular relationship or situation to fulfill you. You know, that's where, and so when you can just be open and just take your oxygen from wherever it is and not worry about it, that's going to give you this freedom to move and to be dynamic and to really just, it's there. The miracles you're looking for are there, but they're not where you expect them. There's a beautiful song called All Is Full of Love by Bjork. I love this song, and it starts off really kind of weird sounding, and I would say like first 2/3 of the song are just odd, but good. But then when she really gets into it, it's gorgeous and beautiful. But one part of the song, one of the lyrics I love is, you know, the love is coming, but maybe not from the sources you're looking for it at. Maybe not the direction you're expecting it from. And I think that's really the, you know, there's an exquisite beauty to recognize. You know, in the song she's saying, your phone is off the hook, right? So it's like you're just like calling that one person, you know, because like that's who you're attached to the miracle coming through or whatever. And it's like, but while you're on that phone, now your phone's off the hook and no one else can get through to you. You know, it's, and this, I guess it's before call waiting. but anyway, all that aside, I think just there is a power in just opening up yourself to all the world of possibilities, and you know, and when you're open that way, like you did, Shireen. I mean, do you want to talk about the sort of the thing that started this podcast? Or
I mean, yeah, like I've basically been having a lot of disruptions. Like honestly, personally and professionally, both. Like just in the area of conflict resolution and like wanting to feel emotionally safe and emotionally heard and emotionally met and struggling, you know, like, so like in my marriage, like to me, that's not like mad respect, Tatum, but like for me, that's actually not a place I feel I can let go. Like I would if I absolutely had to, you know, but I feel like that's something, I mean, I came out of a broken home and I have pretty strong goals around like ending this road together, you know? So like for me, that's an area of my life where I will dig in. Like I'll be like, let's go to couples therapy every week. Like we're freaking working it out because we are going to be married till the end of our lives, and I'm unwilling.
So let's talk about that, because I think that's a really important distinction to make. So, you know, you want Kenny to be part of your life for the rest of your life, and you want to have a beautiful marriage with him for the rest of your life. Now, number one way to destroy a marriage is to become overly on that relationship. Like all your fulfillment needs to come through Kenny, that like everything you need in life in terms of relationships or whatever has to come through Kenny, and the same from Kenny. And, you know, that could work for like 6 or 7 years, but that 7-year itch that, you know, is a cliche. It's a cliche because it's kind of true. Eventually, you start to wear out a relationship if you become overly dependent on that one person to fulfill every sort of aspect of your, you know, social or romantic or friendship or whatever needs. Like there's gonna be needs where you guys just don't have the same needs. And
so are you saying that I should be with Channing Tatum? Because like that's all I'm picking up right now.
If it's okay with Kenny. Say, Kenny, listen, I just have some Channing Tatum needs that you can't fulfill. They're just Channing Tatum needs. But once once I've had a little taste, I'll be done. I'll be good. I'll be back.
So much fun. I'm sorry. I just couldn't. So I was like, this just perfect, Kenny. I had this live stream with Garrett, and I'm sorry, but I gotta go.
I'll be back. I'll be back. I just have some needs that you can't fill.
But you make a good point, just of that idea. Like, I can't suffocate Kenny with like, fulfill all my needs. Blah, blah.
Well, and I think there's two pieces of it. There's like, one is like, okay, God, I need a guy that dances like Channing Tatum with his shirt off and grinds his crotch on the floor or whatever it is that turns you on about, him or his moves or whatever. And you can say, Kenny, can like you do that for me? And like maybe it takes Kenny like 6 months to like get himself able to do that, right? And maybe he's into it, and maybe it like just blows both of your doors off. Like maybe it's a great thing. Or maybe Kenny's like, dude, just go to a strip club. I'm cool with it, So
that was such an amazing story. Like, that analogy just made my day. Like, I am good for the rest of the day, if not my life. All right, so, oh man, I need Kenny to watch this. He's gonna die laughing. Me picturing him like grinding all over, like,
Yeah. I mean, like, go do a YouTube search on like whatever your favorite move or scene was with him, and be like, dude, can you like train yourself to do that? Like, it might take him some time to learn those moves, and if it's abs or whatever it is that like has got you like drooling, it's like, I would say first give Kenny the chance to rise to the occasion. No pun intended.
There you go.
But if Kenny's like, nah, I'm not about that. I'm just not doing that. That's not my thing. And if it's so, say, imagine. So this is where it gets awkward. It's like he's like, nah, dude, I'm not doing that. In fact, I intend to get fat and not move off the couch or whatever it is, right? Like, that's gone too far. But okay, so he just says, I'm not into that. I don't want to do that. And you're like, but if you're like, but I really need that in my life, or at least I need to experience that once in my life, or whatever it is. I think that's where a couple who will stand the test of time finds a way to say, all right, I'm cool. Let's go to this strip club and find your Channing Tatum to like, get close to for a minute or whatever it is. Like that's, I think that's a kind of, loving each other enough to help each other have the freedom or the opportunity to find fulfillment, whatever it is you think you need. And often all it takes is you just having that freedom that makes you realize you don't really need it.
So it sounds like flexibility and like problem solving is really where it's at. It's like, instead of getting attached to it, like looking a certain way, or like the husband has to do the dirty, sexy Channing Tatum moves, it's like, my name is Shereen and I want these dirty, sexy Channing Tatum moves in my life. Husband, are you willing? Are you able? If the answer is no, then I can go get it elsewhere. That I don't like fixate on maybe the way I get what I want.
Yeah, exactly. That was exactly it. Yeah, it's like that love or fulfillment or whatever can come from another direction, and it doesn't reduce your love for Kenny. Like your love, you're completely. In fact, it increases it because loving him isn't costing you some other fulfillment in your life.
Ooh, that's so good, Garrett. Oh, like, I think that's so good. Just the cost thing that comes in with like any business relationship. Yeah, you want to feel like when you're in a relationship, whether it's marriage or business or even a career, a job, you want to feel like it's not costing you something that's like really important, which I think, for me, that's why I never could do the cubicle life. It was like, this feels suffocating to me. I can't do it. I need a job where I get to do a live stream with Garrett, or I get to work with someone on something deep and emotional, or speak or whatever, like fills me up. I just think that's like it. Like, just like, what is it costing you to be too attached to things in whatever form they are in your life? Please comment, you guys. I feel like this is a really juicy conversation.
Yeah, well, people, someone had commented about nuclear family before that. My hair being their spirit animal.
I like that
one. So, so here's an example. My wife prefers me with really short hair. Like, she loved me when I had, a high and tight crew cut. It's like that was, that's what does it for her. But I love having long hair, and she like it's like, okay, well, that's not something I would take from you, or like, but there's that awkward phase where it's like, oh my God, really? You doing this? But I think that's part of the beauty of a relationship that grows and evolves, is like you give each other the freedom to really be yourselves. And even though that might not feel like what you want right away, if Kenny decides, like, he's got some other thing that he wants, and you're like, I'm not into that, it's like there's this awkward phase of getting used to each other's needs or wants or desires, and giving each other the freedom to do it. And that takes courage. That takes courage, patience, and but I think with that you gain the flexibility necessary to bend but not break in your relationship.
That's so true. Flexibility, baby. Maybe that's what this live stream is really about, And then also, I think it's really interesting, the 7-year itch. Like, I wonder why that happens. I mean, you've been married for longer than 7 years.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah, Garrett's trying not to choke.
Yeah, I was coughing off. Hopefully, you all weren't hearing that.
No, you muted it. It was perfect.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I've had this cough for a few weeks. I've learned to mute. 7-year itch is this: that humans are biologically wired to want to raise children together, like just evolutionarily speaking. So evolutionary biology is you conceive a child together, and the love, infatuation, biological attraction is really strong for those first 7 years, because that's how long it takes to get a child up to a stable, like they can kind of fend for themselves level at a prehistoric age, So in prehistoric times, you're 7 years old, you're old enough to run, walk, run away from the tiger, find your own food, hunt with dad, like that kind of stuff. Be, a contributing member of the tribe. And so the parents, being the nuclear family at that point, it's no longer necessary for the parents to be together for that child to still thrive, biologically speaking.
Interesting.
So then the biological imperative shifts, where now you're sort of genetically, I think especially with men, they're going to want to go and like put their genes elsewhere. That's just kind of an imperative.
Naughty boys.
Yeah. So there's all that dynamic going on, and so I think that's that at that 7-year itch is like, okay, we have now just transcended our biological attraction for each other. Like we have now moved beyond what would just be like if we were just pure animals. We've moved beyond what that is in terms of our attraction, and so anything beyond that is an act of a different, deeper kind of devotion that it's got to be spiritual. It's got to be emotional, spiritual, mental. Yeah. It's going to have to, and then you can still have the physical attraction. Don't get me wrong. Like, you could be very, very physically attracted to each other, but you have, it's not like it just, I don't know how to say it. It's not just natural anymore. It's like you have to create the, environment.
It's like you have to be intentional. Yeah, like you have to be intentionally sort of like making it happen or keeping it going, instead of it's so easy. Like maybe it's just not as easy after that.
Yeah, it's not easy, and there's going to be in you, it's like a point. I think that it might even just be like it might just trigger reassessment in people's minds. Like there might be like you're in this cloud of physical infatuation with that person, and we call it love, and it feels like love, and it probably is love, but there's like it's like cellular level love. So it's like this, it's this love that's coming from your primal self, along with whatever emotional, spiritual, whatever other kinds of love there are. You've got this primal love that just keeps you hypnotized and happy. I think for the, generally first 7 years of a relationship, you've got that working for you. When that isn't working for you, that sort of hypnosis or cloud of, rose-colored glasses go away. Now you're really loving the person with all their flaws for what they are, and you've had basically 7 years to figure out all their fucking flaws. So you're you are loving with eyes wide open, which I think is a greater kind of love, but I also think it's the breaking point for a lot of relationships.
Yeah. Yeah, I always get bummed out when I hear about 7-year itch and I'm just like, damn. I just think about, I think just being like a child of a broken home, not to be the drama queen in the room, but like, I always think about like the divorce rate is up to like 50%. I don't even know what it is now, but like last I checked, it was like 50%. It just seems like, what are we doing wrong? You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, it just seems a little like for it to be like 50-50, you might end up together, you might not, when you're like really trying to commit full on. It just, I don't know, just seems like the odds kind of suck.
They do. And they suck even more for, so here's some interesting stuff that I just came across. Women tend to, especially in their first few encounters, women tend to experience a lot more attachment. I think oxytocin has something to do with it. But when they first have sex, like, okay, so this is no longer virgin, they're like, full on sex with a man. Like that first man, they experience what is called pair bonding. Bunnies have this too. We have bunnies, and like, you see bunnies pair bond, and and it's like there's this physical, you and me are in this together forever kind of attachment feeling. But what they've shown is that every subsequent man you have sex with after that first man, your ability to pair bond goes down and down and down and down.
Oh, so, really? Oh, that's interesting. What?
Yeah, and it's much more powerful for women. So for a woman who has, okay, you have your first lover, right? Now you move on to guy number 2. That's the equivalent of a guy going and having 19 lovers. Like so the drop in pair bonding ability for a woman is as severe with just one extra lover as it is for a man that has 19 extra lovers.
That's interesting. So I get that on the woman's side. So just does that mean on the side of it with the male that they just don't pair bond as well? They just don't?
I think men do pair bond very well, actually. Men, I think, are the more romantic creatures. And I think a man can become deeply devoted to a woman, even while being a philanderer. I think that there's a different place in a man's heart for his like primary woman. And that is like, I will go to the end of the world for you. It's like men love women like women love children. So it's like, how you feel about your kids. Like, your kids can't do anything wrong. Like, you will love them to the end of the world. You will never stop loving them. Like men can love a woman that way. And so, but also a man can be like, I just need to go spread my seed. Like, that's just a physical imperative that men feel, because that's just, historically, not beyond prehistorically, how shit went down, how it worked. Successful. Yeah.
No, keep going. I'm listening.
Well, something just clipped out on your earbuds. Did you change something?
Wait, no. Can you hear me normal now?
It's just like it's super crazy. Just unplug them and
plug
them back
really?
in. Okay, now it's back. You're back. You're good.
Okay, I just plugged them back in. Are we good?
Yeah, good.
All right.
So let's hit this comment. Person's personal power comes from tuning into the things you can change, like shift in perspective to track what's meant to be for you. Maintaining love between you can co-create together, I guess. Okay.
I think that. I think that's pretty on point with what we're kind of talking about.
Yeah.
And then Melanie says, know your yeses and know your nos. I think that's great. Because I do think, to a large degree, that's also what this topic is about, of like really figuring out like what is okay with you and what is not okay with you.
Yeah.
And once you know that, then you can choose, do I dig in here and really work on it with this person or situation, or do I just let go and bounce? But you really can't even make that decision unless you're clear on, just where your boundaries are and what you're good with, what you're not good with.
Yep.
Interesting stuff, my friends. So feel free to hit us with your comments, guys, of like if you actually have any personal situations you need some support with, business situations. If Garrett's hair is really your spirit animal, or if you want mine, for example. I mean, come on, y'all. Don't hate on my hair, okay? I even straightened it today.
Okay, so Thor Anonymous wants to know, what's the topic? Family just got here. Okay, so the topic is Channing Tatum's back on the market.
That's pretty much all.
What does it mean in your life? How does it affect you? And what we're talking about is like how to find fulfillment in all your relationships. And so we're talking about all kinds of things. Like we're really talking about attachment at root, and getting what you need at the same time as like how do you have like fulfilling long-term relationships, and we're drawing a correlation between Channing Tatum taking a break from his marriage to like Shireen taking a break from a particular business relationship, and then to like how a startup can't get too attached on how they actually get to where they need to go, and how if you're trying to make money in an entrepreneurial way, or even as a salesperson or consultant, that if you get too attached to a particular source of your fulfillment, that is where shit starts to go really sideways and wrong for you. And when you're open to the world being your oyster, there is a magic to that, a miraculous freedom in that actually allows you to find the fulfillment you're looking for. And it often will come from where you least expect, and it also will come from those that you may have hoped or expected it from in the first place. But because you're open and free and the world is your oyster, you don't have the resistance and the anxiety that can actually block you from receiving what it is you want. And therefore, even if it is like that particular one relationship that you're so hoping is going to be the one relationship, it very well can be, but it's going to be much stronger if there's freedom in that, as opposed to this overt need that relationship fulfills all of your needs.
Yeah. Like I just got this sort of like miraculous, because I love doing what we're doing right now. Like I really love being about a conscious conversation. I love speaking with a group of people more than I love like doing maybe like one-on-one coaching. You know, I have like a stand-up comedy background, so it's just kind of what works for me. So I love when me and Garrett do these live streams. Like it's seriously one of my favorite things. Out of nowhere, like 2 weeks ago, I got this miraculous opportunity to possibly do a radio hosting gig, and it sort of came out of nowhere. I didn't even try for it. It literally dropped in my lap from a friend of mine who I used to do comedy with back in the day. And I quickly wanted to cling to it. I was like, oh, this would be perfect. This would be amazing. Let me get real clingy right now. The worst idea ever. But I could feel that feeling in my body of like neurotic control, wanting to will it into existence instead of like sort of trusting that it's all happening without me having to do anything. And so I immediately just started looking for like other gigs. I was like, you need to this is like dating, dude. It's like dating. Like you don't want to meet somebody that you like and then cling like a crazy person, because then you're just going to repel them. You got to date around, you know, you got to like go to coffee with so-and-so and do a lunch with so-and-so and just spread your attention so that you don't get too fixated, because otherwise shit goes haywire. I mean,
yeah. And that's it. It's like everything starts getting fucked up when you put that kind of pressure on it. I'm tuning into Shakti's comment. Garrett, for us ladies that have had multiple partners sexually, but we now want to get married, what would you recommend for us to get those pair bonds back? And just if you want to look this up, it's pair bonds as in like two things, PAIR, bond, and the way you can get it back. I know we keep going back to this on this podcast or live stream every now and then, but it's true. Timothy Leary used to say, and actually he was a renowned psychologist with regards to how psychedelics affected people. A big part of what he discovered was that when people did strong psychedelics like LSD or shrooms together, or even not together, if you do them, with somebody, you are putting your mind back at that early state. I'm trying to remember the word for it, but ducks get into it when the duck decides who their mother is, like when they're first born. It's called imprinting. So when you're break your mind wide open for imprinting, which is what happens when you do strong psychedelics, now you can be imprinted. And so if you do strong psychedelics with the person you want to pair bond with, I believe that actually might work. And so the psychedelics I would recommend is shrooms, but a very particular kind of shroom. I would say you want the Pesa variety of shroom. That's the only one I can kind of put my stamp of approval on. There may be others, but that's the only one I know of that, like, I would go with that one. That's PESA, and that's a mushroom. And if you take like 5 dried grams of that mushroom and then spend some really deep, beautiful quality time with your lover, make sure the music is really soulful and romantic and like up in the heavens kind of thing, choirs of angels, like that's the kind of thing. And go out under, make sure the night is clear and full of stars and it's warm enough for you to be outside, and go out, be in nature with trees and stars and your lover and beautiful music in your earbuds. And maybe you can find, a great way to do it would be, both of you have these, but find a splitter so you can both be listening to the same music at the same time. I think you will have a very deep, profound pair bonding through that kind of experience. Others have, everyone talks about how Molly kind of gets you into that state of mind. You got to be careful with Molly because people can die from that if you get a bad batch. I guess you could die from bad mushrooms too. You got to really know what you're getting. But both of those things I do recognize could probably get you back to a pair bonding state. Making love on psychedelics probably going to get you pretty close to that. Another thing you might be able to do is go on some really serious adventures, like face the feeling of death with each other. So that's like jump off a bridge together with a bungee jump, or a parachute together, something. But again, you want to do it with them. So it's like if you're parachuting, but you're with like the parachuting instructor, and you might end up pair bonding with the parachute instructor. So you got to make sure like you really do. Go hit a go hit an amusement park and do the scariest rides together. Like all of those things will also help increase the pair bond. And then like make love like rabbits, like really go at it, but like not really like intentional lovemaking, and like crazy fucking and all that stuff. Like those things can all help. Those are my recommendations.
Recommendation number 1, crazy fucking.
Crazy
That
fucking.
Was amazing. We do have a cool suggestion from Larry on the live stream. He says, read Prometheus Rising by Robert Anton Wilson. It instructs you on how to take conscious control of these imprints.
Yeah. Robert Anton Wilson is he's like one of the granddaddies of the psychedelic movement. Definitely check out his stuff now that you've Prometheus Rising. I haven't read it, but I believe this guy. So or gal, I don't know their names beyond the fold now. How long have you been?
Yeah, do it. I was gonna read that.
How long have you been growing your hair? Have you noticed your hair increase your intuition and knowing? Yes. Part of the reason I do it is because like I just feel more connected. I mean, yeah, I feel like that there's like hair is almost like antenna in a way, and it does two things for me. Like my mother asked me, she's like, why do you insist on growing your hair? I come from a background, Navy background. I was the crew cut, high and tight, Navy haircut, jock, football player, all that stuff. So like everybody in my family that knows me from my teenage years and below doesn't understand the long haired dude. It's like you were like the Navy guy, And in the Navy, you have the short hair. So my mother's like, why do you insist on like having this long hair? And I say, it's my mane. It's like, imagine a lion that had its mane shaved or shorn, right? It's like the lion would be missing something. so it's like, I don't know, there's like something to it, and I love it. So I keep doing it. I keep letting it grow long. I don't like to go too long, but it works for me, you know.
I like it. I like to poke fun at your Jesus hair, but I think it's a good look, you know.
Yeah. And I do a lot of stuff with my crown chakra, like all these chakras here, like they're big on my consciousness. You know, you hear me talk about this Frisian stuff all the time, and where is my energy or intuition or whatever coming from when I'm making these videos? It's like right through here. And you know, I'm not saying like the hair is the trick to it, but I actually do feel like something is missing, an appendage from my body, a sense organ is missing when my hair is too short. Don't know why, but yeah. So I kind of, it's great intuition there about what my hair, you know, scientifically true or not, represents to me in my mind.
That's good to know. I feel like I learned so much about you right now, Garrett.
So pair bonding, I think it's a hugely important thing. If you have daughters who are just, you know, in their early stages of romantic relationships and things of that sort, like, you might just want to warn them, hey, you know what? You might be experiencing like this amazing, we just call it like you're young and you're hot and you feel like you can just, you know, enjoy the world and now's your time and go on spring break and do all these crazy things and like really enjoy your sexuality and your hotness and have as much fun as you want, have as many men as you want and all that stuff. That's the culture today is saying that to women. I think it's really doing them a disservice because I think on a pair bonding level, girls that get caught up in this, you know, and they rip through like, you know, 5, 10, 50 guys, you know, at the end of that stint, whatever guy they end up with, even if this is like their Prince Charming, there's going to be like something in them that's just like, you know, you can go. Like, I'm not that attached to you. And without that attachment, it makes a long-term relationship very, very difficult because everybody's got their flaws. But like, if, you know, if somebody has their flaws, but they're your like first love and you grew up with them and they're everything in your world, it's like you work through the flaws. There's this heavy, deep emotional investment that comes with the pair bonding. On the other side of like, you know, 20, 50 guys, it's like, you're like, you know, dude, you know, your dick's not as big as this guy, and you're not as strong as this other guy I was with, and you're not as smart as this other guy I was with, and I don't know how. Shireen, you probably know better than I do. How do women think about guys? But do you not like find like you're like,
You know, so it sounds like your point, because I'm like, I could go on about all the things women say about men, but I don't want to get lost in the sauce.
No,
you know what I mean?
No. I turn to you for some sauce. Give us some sauce first, and then go to the deeper point.
I mean, you know, okay, so there are women who actually talk about size and how that is or isn't a criteria for them. I really think everyone's different. I mean, there's no like one. There are some women who are like, oh, he has to be big, and if he's not big, then he better be good at going down or I'm out. Like, I've totally heard women say that. And like, I'm a person who like, you will get to my heart and my body through my mind. So I don't even think like that. It doesn't even occur to me to think about someone's like body, like at first. It just doesn't occur to me, like literally, like. But also, I probably wouldn't jump in the sack with anyone either. Like, I'd have to really be interested, or like they'd have to say something that's intellectually stimulating. So I just feel like every woman's different. And it just is really interesting, though, that there was a study done about this pair bonding. I didn't know that. And I can see how that's just an interesting point, because I feel like women are the ones who are the pressures on them to like be all virginal, you know, or at least it used to be that way. Maybe now it's changing. And with this study, there's almost like a reason to maybe stay virginal, not like totally, but like just a little bit. There's a little bit of information that's actually backing up why it would matter for a woman to not have too many sexual partners. But yet at that point, I guess it's like, does that matter either? Like, is it okay that women don't pair bond? Could they still have a healthy marriage if they had had a lot of partners? Is it impossible to have a healthy marriage if they had a lot of partners? Or is it just like, let's just keep it safe and simple? Because I do believe, like, I feel like I'm a little bit of a sexist sometimes, but I really do believe like women are the ones who are like the master of the family, if you will. And I feel like whether I like it or not, men are the ones who are sort of like the master of like the career world. And so I sometimes like defer to like Dr. Laura used to have a radio show. She still does a ton of stuff, but like whatever. And she was very like old school about the way she coached, if you will. She was always just like, well, the woman runs the family. And so that's just the way it is. Get over it. And at first that shocked me. I didn't like it. But then I thought about it more and I'm like, ooh, I actually really think this is kind of true. I think women are the ones who decide what isn't okay in the home. If it's okay to be verbally abusive or not. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just feel like women are the ones who create the culture of the home. And so to some degree, I can see why it would matter for women to be able to pair bond and be able to stay with one partner so that they can still be the master of like the family and keeping communities together instead of having all these broken homes.
Yeah. So I want to speak to a few things that you just said there. First of all, whether or not, like, some of you out there probably have had, like, 50, 100, 150 guys. I think Wilt Chamberlain had, like, 5,000, 10,000 women. It's like, this is possible. You can have a very high number of previous lovers and still have a beautiful relationship. The difference we're talking about here, though, is one way, if you marry the first man, first of all, if you wait till you really are in love and then marry that first man that you are truly in love with, you will probably be very deeply physiologically pair bonded with them, and therefore a lot of the things that make a relationship strong you will just do naturally, because that's what you will feel impelled to do by your sort of physiological pair bonding with that man. If you are on the other side of 150 men and now you're with 151 and you really love this guy, there will probably be a number of times during your relationship, especially after the 7-year itch, where you have to be very disciplined to evoke the same enthusiasm for that man as a pair bonded woman would naturally. So you might not feel that strong pair bond to compel you to see the best in him, to I don't know how to say it, like look up to him is not the right word, but to admire him, to like even his gross or bad habits or whatever, like there's something endearing about him, like you love his smell, like you want him, like those types of things, I think come more naturally when you're pair bonded, and when you're not, then you have to work for those. And I think that is why you see this disintegration of marriage, because the sexual revolution has allowed women and men to go sow their wild oats, but in doing so has destroyed the cultural tradition that sort of almost insisted on pair bonding. And that pair bonding served both men and women. It served women, and they're happier with their first lover. And at the same time, because they're happier with their first lover, their men are better men because they're seeing the best in them. If you see that video I released a year and a half ago, How to Change People on Facebook, that reached like 25 million people, that's all about seeing the best in somebody really does evoke the best from them. So if you are deeply pair bonded with your man, you will see the best in them even when they're misbehaving, and you'll love them anyway, and they'll be a better man and a more devoted man to you because of that. And it's like this sort of virtuous cycle of love that keeps you both strong and keeps the family together and all that. So there, historically, you could say these patriarchies and patriarchal cultural norms where women have to be virgins and things like that, and this was insisted on by men. Yeah, there's something in it for them too, because they know if a woman is a virgin when they marry her, that she will be pair bonded to him, and then they don't have to be as suspicious of her, running off or having an affair or whatever it is. Like they can feel more confident in their relationship with her because they know that she's not got 50 other guys to compare him to, and that she's not easily distracted from whatever he is. So I don't know. I don't know where else what else were you mentioning, Shreen? Because I felt like there's a few things. But
I just think it's so interesting because, like, and on this note, it's like, well, then how does the sexual revolution and sort of like women's like empowerment and feminism and all this stuff really affect families? Because it's like the world is made of like society and community, which is made of families, So it's like, it's a little concerning, you know what I mean? Like, almost I'm like, are we not going in the right direction? Like, I obviously love that women are empowered. I love that women get to do more in the world and have influence and have a voice and sort of like, what's the word? Rise up against oppression, like 100%. Are you kidding me? It's just like the best thing ever. And I still want women to like rule the homes in the way that only women really can. So it's like, I don't know. Like, what do we do, Garrett?
Well, I think we have to admit that right now we are in an experiment of human sexuality. The sexual revolution is only like a few decades old. I mean, it sort of got kicked off in the 60s. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're 5 or 6 decades into the sexual revolution, and there's been fits and starts, AIDS, back and forth, things like that kind of suppressed it. But meanwhile, we've got what we got to recognize is we are in the bubble of an experiment, and a number of experiments. One is the sexual revolution, birth control, the pill, all of that, like allows people to, go crazy on spring break and not worry too much about the ramifications of that. Now, if you were a woman. Now, here's another interesting thing about the pair bonding, right? The pair bonding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Shireen, but I've heard this a number of times, that women get really attached to a man when he is inside her, right? So it's like, that's, if his dick's in you, all of a sudden there's this weird attachment that comes out of, right? But like but only in your vagina. So like, that's it, right? So It's like, now, if you gave him a hand job or a blow job or something like that, the attachment isn't as strong. Is that true? Does that ring true?
Oh, we're getting personal. Oh, shit. I love how I just became the experiment, the woman's voice.
Well, no, I've heard this. I'm just saying, like, does this ring true for you and for what you've heard from
I think that's probably true. I think that's probably, yeah.
So think about it this way. Like, before there was birth control, there was hand jobs and blow jobs, right? There was every other way you guys could be together except for like full-on reproductive sex. And it's the full-on reproductive sexual act that causes the pair bonding. So if if girls were able to go out on spring break and just have fun, get semen all over yourselves, but just don't let that penis into your vagina. It's like you might preserve your ability to pair bond at the same time as having a lot of fun, True. But I think that could be also sort of part of the nuance that we've forgotten with birth control is like, okay, now that everybody's on the pill, everybody can just have a free-for-all, but that's not doing anyone any good in terms of their ability to maintain long-term relationships.
It's so interesting. My goodness, Garrett. This is really interesting. Just like how the way the world is changing affects the way the world will continue to be. or not be in the future, you know?
Yeah. So,
Like
I think,
sometimes progress isn't good,
mm-hmm. Yeah.
it is good, but there's also costs. I don't know. We're in a sticky situation here. This conversation is sticky. Freaking started with Channing Tatum. How the hell did we get here?
Well, we just got to follow the spirit of the dialogue, and I think that's where we've ended up. So that's one issue. The other issue is we live in this like crazy social media space where you're on Instagram and you're seeing this insanity on Barstool Sports or whatever other Instagram profiles you follow, Frat Life or any of these like crazy Instagrams. They're hilarious sometimes, and then they're just tragic other times. Just like, oh my God, look at these chicks in the wild. It's like you see like what these girls are doing to themselves, and you're like, this is a horribly unhealthy for them, both emotionally and probably physically, and B, like, whose daughter is this? Like, does nobody care about these girls enough to help them not completely lose their shit? And I think there's girls who come from good families and have enough self-love. You don't have to come from a good family to have enough self-love, but as long as you've got enough self-love and self-respect and dignity to not drink yourself into absolute oblivion and be like shuffling through the slush and snow with your heels dragging behind your bare feet and then throwing up in a back alley and possibly being horribly taken advantage of. Like, this is the kind of thing that's going down everywhere across America right now on the regular. And was it always like this? I don't think it was. I think there was a moment in time where binge drinking just to show off, like chugging a bottle of wine just to show off as a girl, was not considered a feminine, attractive thing to do. Guys would do it, but guys, like, I think are just built to handle that stuff a little better, and it's a little less destructive and dangerous to their situation. Whereas, now I think we've got the chicks get involved, and it's hilarious at times, but also at times it's like really sad and unfortunate and tragic.
Yeah, exactly.
So
that's a tough one, Garrett. That is a tough one because it's like brings us back to like primal biological shit where it's like, as much as we're conscious beings who are like, some are male and some are female, it's like the truth is dudes have 16 times more testosterone in their bodies than women do, which gives them more energy and more strength, which means to some degree women always have to be protecting themselves because they are potentially prey. And I hate that I think this, but I think this, like I'm never a girl you're going to see sloshed at a party. Literally never. Like, not since high school, never. Like, I would never do that because I've always had this, and it might be because, the reason I come from a broken home is because my dad was abusive. So it might be because my mom came out of that kind of like abusive pain. Like, lucky for me, she got out when I was like 1. So it's not like something I necessarily experienced from him, but like, I don't know if there's just like a hyper vigilance, like just knowing that shit can go down at a young age. And just, I've always been very careful with myself, but it's unfortunate because like not a lot of women are, like I see a lot of people, a lot of women just kind of like doing their thing and having a good time. And it's all fun and games. And then like you read these terrible stories in the news and I'm like, I almost just wish there was like some like women's class that like we could teach, just like, here are very simple ways to protect yourself from potential doom. Like, I just feel like even though it's not fair, it's just reality, like, yes. I hate that. I hate that a woman can't just go get fucking slush and have a good ass time and just be like a shit show one day and like, it's great, like, I would love that. But it's like, unfortunately, it's just not safe, Yeah.
And this is something that, I've talked to my daughter about, and she's only 13, but, she says to me, I want to go to New York City with my friend. And I'm going, you're not going to New York City with your friend alone. You realize that, right? No, we're going alone. We're saving the money. We're going to go to New York City. We're going to take the train down alone. And I'm like, no. Or I want to go into Boston and join the gun control rally the other weekend. Just me and my friend. And I'm like, you're not going to go into a huge crowd of people, tens of thousands of people all on the street with, very little that any police or anything can do, and nobody watching you. Like, I will stand 10 yards behind you or 20 yards behind you, but I will be your bodyguard. He's like, you can do that, but you're going to have your bodyguard with you. And she's like, no, Dad, it's so ridiculous. Why can't you just like let me be free? And and I'm like, because something terrible could happen to you, and it's my job as a parent to stop anything terrible from happening to you for at least the first 18 years of your life, but I'm probably going to go and double that. And so, and she couldn't understand. I said, look, if you were a toddler and you were walking headlong or crawling to the stairs, to the top of the stairs, I would not let you just flop down the stairs because you wanted to, because you needed to be free. Like, that could really injure you. That could really hurt you. I would not let you drink bleach. I would not let you run into the street. I would not, I would insist that you wear a helmet while you're riding a bicycle. Like, all those things are to keep you safe. And she's like, well, nothing's going to happen to us. I'm like, nothing is going to happen to you most of the time. But that 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 10 times that something always happens to women, if you're out there, you're playing Russian roulette with your life, with your feelings, with your emotions, with your ability to, feel good in your sexual relationships later in life. All of that is on the line when you're taking those risks. So maybe you could go to the bar and just get absolutely sloshed. Now, I'm not talking about my 13-year-old daughter anymore. I'm talking about an older daughter. But it's like, maybe you could go to the bars and get absolutely wrecked and nothing happens to you, and hallelujah, nothing happens to you. But do that 10 times, something's probably going to happen to you. Just statistically, I think it's 1 in 5 women have been, the whole Me Too movement, what's the number? 1 in 5 women have been assaulted. Yeah. So it's like, okay, so I would venture many of those times it is in some sketchy situation where she's already under the influence of something, and her friends aren't exactly on the ball either, and and so you throw yourself in that environment, and there's a good chance 1 out of 5, 1 out of 10 times something terrible could happen to you. Or even if it's not like something was done to you, perpetuate, like if you weren't, maybe you were preyed upon, but maybe you also consented to being the prey that night, but you might not have done that had the lights been on and you really saw that guy for what he was and you weren't half annihilated. It's like there is I don't know. I think there's a wisdom we have lost in our party lifestyles. Yeah. That we're all trying to be Animal House these days, and I think it is hurting our young women.
I agree. It's like, what's the cost? Like, why, like, when you really weigh, like, I either get to have, like, in the most ideal version of this, how this night plays out, I get to have an amazing freaking time and just feel stoked that I had a good time. In the worst case scenario of this situation, I am assaulted and it deeply traumatizes me for the rest of my life. Pretty sure that worst case is so much worse than your possible good night that it's like not worth the risk. But for some reason, it's almost like normalized, like you said, like in our lifestyle, at least freaking Animal House. Like, I don't know what it is. And I've always kind of been like a granola geek. Like, I wake up early. I don't even like the feeling of being under the influence. Like, I'm sort of a nerd. And I think this nerdiness has protected me from a lot of stuff. I just want to like bestow my nerdiness on the women of the world because I just feel like, if they were just more careful, a lot of things could be avoided. And I don't want this to be misconstrued like, oh, it's your fault, because I feel like quickly people go to like, well, women should be able to have fun too. And you're kind of saying it's on, like, it's like if a woman is victimized and it's on her. No, I'm not saying it's on her. It's clearly on the predator or the perpetrator or the criminal here. However, if women were more aware of the fact that they are unfortunately at risk, they would be more careful. I don't know how the hell we got on this subject, but we're already over time, Garrett. I don't even know what to do with myself. I mean, we gotta wrap this in a bow somehow.
Okay, so here's the bottom line. Bottom line is your answer is you need a bodyguard. Like myself, like I offered my daughter, like, I'll be your bodyguard. Take a bodyguard with you. Take a strong man who loves you. Maybe it's your brother, maybe it's your father, whatever. Maybe it's Channing Tatum, and have them protect you while you're partying. Like, then I think you can.
Yeah, or or like you have one friend out of the group who's like the sober one, you know, or like like a couple friends. If you have a group of 5, like 2 of them are the sober ones. I don't know. I mean, what the fuck, is drinking that great? Like, it's not that great. Like, I don't know. It's just, to me, I don't understand it's not worth the risk. But yeah. Or you drink in safe environments where there's not like all these like uncertain variables, you know, you have the bodyguard, or maybe it's like a kickback with people, you know, for the most part, and it's not going to be any like crazy creepers. I don't know. But I'm trying to figure out like how we can conclude and like roll back to our original conversation of letting go and that being the place of empowerment because you're not attached. Like we just went
okay, yeah. I mean, full circle. Full circle is if you know that you let that man inside you in a fully,
consensual,
penis in the vagina kind of thing, right?
Yes,
like
yes.
You let that happen, you're gonna get attached. Okay. And if you don't get attached, it's because you've already broken that mechanism in yourself, you know? So don't do everything else. Have all kinds of fun without doing that. And you won't get attached, and then you'll be able to have the freedom to find the real love of your life at some point whenever you're ready to. Mm-hmm. And you can do all the other stuff, you know? And I'm not saying that's, I have to do more research, right? But that's just kind of the conclusion I would jump to, given this research is saying, like, women who have, every time you have a new sexual partner, it reduces your ability to pair bond. I would say, like, okay, well, protect that ability as best you can. And then if you already have kind of destroyed that ability or diminished that ability in yourself a bit, then realize there could be some tools. I can't vouch for them because I haven't actually run this experiment, but I think imprinting with psychedelics in a very like devoted relationship with some kind of extreme experiences, whether that's out under the stars just full of awe, or whether it's like, on a roller coaster, or having like making crazy love. It's like all of those things could help you kind of get your pair bond back. But bottom line is don't overcommit. I think that's really it. Don't overcommit. And like fucking that dude just because like all your friends are fucking dudes and he's looking really hot, like might be overcommitting, like that could be an overcommitment. Yeah.
I like it. We'll have to continue this one next week. I feel like maybe we should do some research this week, and then when we do our live stream next week, we can maybe conclude with I don't know. I just feel like this is like we really opened to like a juicy topic that just needs a little more time,
Yeah.
So
and I do feel obligated to mention that somebody said that 1 out of 2 girls is sexually molested or abused. So it's like, now in that situation, that wasn't like they were going out being crazy. Like that was like really forced on them and possibly at a way too young age. And I would even say for that, I would explore you probably have done if you are one of those girls, you've probably done a ton of therapy in your life. If you haven't, start there. But the other thing I would say is try again shrooms. Try the PESA, it's a PESA, like something cubensis, whatever. Look up PESA shrooms, you'll find it. Like that, under the stars with the trees love you. They will minister to you. Find your tree therapist, hang out with her. There will be healing. Like, and when you do that, call to God, like call to, the higher power, call to transcendent love and say, I'm opening myself wide open. I'm highly imprintable. And the only imprint I want is from the highest, most transcendent love of the universe. Like I want God's love imprinting on me, and I want to be healed. And I reject any other consciousness that try to creep in and mess with me. So it's like you just ask the Holy Spirit to protect you and like go out under those stars. And maybe in that situation, that also can heal all the harm and hurt that you've experienced being molested or raped. But then the other is also that might be a way to get yourself back into a place where you can pair bond, and where you can start treating your sexuality as something that's precious and sacred, and sort of re-sanctify your own relationship with your sexual being.
I love that. It's beautiful. Thank you, Garrett. You brought it home right then. That's what we needed.
All right. No, Channing Tatum is what you need. Go find Channing. He's out there somewhere.
I do need a little Channing in my life. Don't tell Kenny. Don't tell him. Just kidding. All right. Thank you for with us this week. We will see you next week. And until then, be good to yourselves.